Hello and welcome. You are watching Business Plus here on News9 Live. I'm Krishna Kumar and I'm being joined in the studio by my colleague Shweta Kothari. Shweta, thank you so much for being with us. And we are discussing the big news coming in from the Union Government of India on the import curbs on HSN 8471 on all laptops and mobiles and tablets and all those electronic goods, most of them imported from China. Now there's a curb on it, and how will this impact India's own ability to deliver laptops to its millions and millions of citizens will be the next question that's being asked. And to answer that and much more, we're being joined in the studio by Mr. Rahul Agarwal, former MD and CEO Lenovo India, is joining us via video conference. Mr. Rahul Agarwal, thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast. Obviously, the news comes as the kind of balm that Make in India needs, the kind of push that Make in India needs, and talk to us in terms of the near-term impact, because at the same time we have Reliance introducing a 16,000 rupee laptop, and we can only expect more such products to hit the market going forward.
Yeah, I mean, look, it may look like big news, but for those who've been in the industry, it is not that big a shock. Government has been nudging, almost arm twisting for many years for the PC and the tablet manufacturers to start doing more manufacturing stroke assembling in India. And somehow that has gotten to a level of about 25-30%, and it has not gone up beyond that. And there are good reasons for that. Government did PLI, didn't really do well. PLI 1, nobody took. PLI 2 has got a better response, but still the duty is out. So this is, more of a non-tariff move by the government to give a very strong message to all the PC players that look, if you want to sell in India, you better start manufacturing here.
All right, that is important, of course. If you've got to sell in India, you've got to manufacture in India, and that seems to be the message. What's also important to understand from you, sir, because you've been a part of the supply chain, how prepared are we in terms of having local suppliers, and what's going to be the impact as far as pricing of these items is concerned? Now, mobile phones, TVs, laptops are essential. TVs, of course, we already have, import curbs for TVs and ACs, but with import curbs now hitting your mobile phones, your laptops have become very quintessential to living and life today in post-pandemic world. Are the prices of these items going to go up? How do you see the industry reconciling with these bans?
So from, whatever my interaction with the industry folks have told me, everyone is waiting and watching for the details. Now, we all know that, a one-pager rule comes that throws the country in a tizzy, and then the details come. So what does the licensing regime mean? For example, if a vendor was selling X number of computers, will they still get the license for the same number with a little bit of red tape? We don't know. If that happens, then all is well and good, and it's just a kind of a message by the government, and government is quite determined. MeitY is quite determined that Make in India really happens for the PCs. Now, if you really look at the market, the market is ruled by all the MNC players. It's HP, Dell, Lenovo, Asus, Acer, and Samsung. And the top three players are almost 70% of the market. So the decision making is not that simple. And the reason is that assembling in India, I would still like to call it assembling in India, not really manufacturing in India, is still has been 4 to 5% more expensive than importing it from China. Mm-hmm. And in a very, very hyper competitive, low margin business, this is a deal breaker. This can be a deal breaker. So government is now saying, look, what if we don't give you a choice?
Right.
Right. Now, what can happen? You're talking about the short-term impact on prices. If vendors are forced to manufacture and absorb the 5% increase in cost, they will have no choice but to pass it on to the consumer.
Okay.
Right. I also wanted to check with you. The latest coming out of that is that Apple and Samsung have already frozen the imports of their own laptops and tablets and mobiles. That's the latest that we're understanding. And then all the tech companies who are in India, operating in India, are now rushing to get their licenses cleared as far as what they import is concerned. That from that perspective, I was asking.
Yes, that will happen because in any competitive industry, panic spreads very fast because nobody wants to lose market share because of lack of speed. But as I said, I think details will come out hopefully in the next few days, if not weeks, on how will this license regime work. It sounds regressive by any means, but I think it's in line with the larger government initiative of uh, promoting Make in India. So I would say that we should just wait and see how this actually gets rolled out. Number two, in the short term, I don't think the government will want to have a impact of price increase because inflation in control is one of the highlights of the government and they would not want to do this. Secondly, PC is a very important category because almost, if I look at the consumer space, almost two-thirds is used uh, by students, and they cannot have a shortage. So they cannot have a shortage, they cannot have a price increase.
Right.
So my personal bet is that look, this is just a strong message and not a draconian rule that will impact the industry.
Can I, at this point in time, ask you to revisit? You're calling this move regressive. If I'm incorrect, I'm quoting you correctly at this point in time. It basically amounts to a license that you will have to get from DGFT, and post which you can continue to perhaps importing from where you were initially importing. And majority of these imports, we know from our figures that we were also showing on our screens, is from China and South Korea.
Right.
Are you hoping that the fine prints, Rahul, will not prevent existing players from continuing to import?
Yeah, as I said, I think nothing is going to happen overnight. And the PC demand is a daily demand, right? People buy computers every day. There is enough computers to last maybe another 4 to 8 weeks. That's the kind of inventory that vendors typically have with them and distributors and retailers. Sometimes it's more than 2 months. But beyond that, I think imports will need to be continued. And the source, yeah, I know there is a China angle, and I've worked in Lenovo for 20 years, so I understand that angle very well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Precisely why we have you in conversation with us on a day like this when the big news is out, Mr. Agarwal. No better person than you who would understand this conundrum.
Yeah, see, the China angle has been there, and nobody should be surprised uh, with with that point of view. Finally, it's all geopolitical. It's not
Right.
not just political, but it's geopolitical.
Absolutely.
And
Does it
that,
make any economic sense as well? Is it just
in the
geopolitical,
law?
or yes, does it
Yeah,
have an
see,
economic proposition here? Because essentially, Rahul, I'm going to hold you to an answer here, because essentially what the government is saying is that, look, we rolled out a PLI for hardware that you did not make use of. There were no takers despite a 113% increase in the PLI for hardware. You did not see any uptick for making component hardware in India. So we had no choice. We could not impose tariff because we are a signatory of WTO. Essentially, this is the only way forward. We're going to ban imports, and now you have to start making in India. It does look like government is holding a whip, but does it make any economic sense?
Yeah, see, in the long term, if you replace import with domestic manufacturing, it is good for the country. There is, firstly, it has a positive impact on the forex. Number two, there is employment generation. And India symbolically also wants to become an electronic powerhouse. On phones, they have made very big and good progress. And that is what has whetted their appetite. They are saying that, look, if we can do this on the phones, which is primarily led by Apple and Samsung, why can't we do it on the PC front? I think they are very different markets, and uh, which is why government did not see PLI taking off. I think PLI has a lot of gaps, and for a PC, the logistics is very important, and all the vendors are comfortable manufacturing where they are. Yeah, there is a China plus strategy, which is why Apple, as I understand, has chosen Vietnam as their China plus one. So we'll have to wait and see what other uh, people do. But in the end, I think government is government, and people will fall in line. But it takes even for assembling lines to be rolled out, it is easily a 1 year project, 1 to 2 years, depending on how big a line you want to set up. So nothing's going to happen overnight.
Okay.
My prediction is that brands will go and meet the government and give commitments and get there today, rolling out, and then they'll figure out what to do tomorrow.
Okay, they will figure out what to do tomorrow. What about Apple and Samsung, who have already frozen their imports already, the big ones?
See, Samsung is insignificant in the PC space. They've just reintroduced recently. Look at their market share; it's pretty insignificant, but it's a mega brand. So maybe in future it might do well. Apple also, in terms of volume, is very small.
Okay.
It has got less than 5% market share. So these are not the people. You got to look at HP, who's a market leader, and then Dell and Lenovo, who are close number 2 and number 3. These three people really will, determine how the industry reacts.
Okay. Since you are an expert in this domain, and I know we are running short of time and you have to leave us, but since you're an expert, I want to understand what's the current dependence like on other markets for procuring components, because that will give us a sense of what sort of dependence we are looking at,
right.
and therefore how much will these companies have to negotiate with the government.
Right, and how soon we can overcome that dependence.
Yeah, see, you got to separate the assembling from manufacturing.
Right.
Today, even if 25% of the PCs are being manufactured in India, a very large part of it is getting imported. The parts, PCBA, that's a big one. The chip, Intel or AMD, that gets imported. Memory gets imported. RAM gets imported. The screen gets imported. So, if you really need true manufacturing in India, then government has also got to start thinking how to get those people to come to India. Now, we all know what is happening in the fab space, right? It's not easy because these are very high intensive, high investment decisions. And companies want to be sure that they will get the support from the government that is needed for these projects.
All right, and with that, I guess we have run out of time over here on this particular edition of Business Plus. I'm going to thank Mr. Rahul Agarwal, former MD and CEO of Lenovo India, for taking time out to speak to us on this big story that we're tracking over here. Thank you, Mr. Agarwal, for being with us, and hope to have you again soon on our broadcast. But thank you so much for now. We'll let you go at that. And with that, it is a wrap on this edition of Business Plus, but don't go anywhere. News, updates and analysis will continue right here on News9 Live. For now, this is Krishna Kumar signing off along with my colleague Shweta Kothari. Keep it with News9.